There you are. We're live on Facebook. All right, so we're a minute early, but just wanted to say good morning and welcome to everybody. And I'm so excited to welcome our fire chief, Chief Meyer, today to be our guest for the community conversations. So like always, I would love to start off with everybody kind of giving a quick introduction of themselves so we get to know you. Mike, do you want to start? Do you want to just listen in? Whatever's comfortable.
I'll just quickly that I've lived in San Ramon for about 41 years. My son-in-law is a firefighter, so I'm always interested in this kind of thing and just here to listen, really.
Thanks for joining. Russ.
Yeah, hi, I'm Russ Walsh. I work with GE Digital. I've met Sabina over the years working with her at GE, and part of the reason I'm interested, I actually spoke with Sabina about a month ago. We're starting to look into what can GE do more so in the world of helping with forest fire management, response, prevention, detection, and so forth. So right now we're early stage. We do a little bit working with PG&E, I found out, with helping them coordinate shutting down power, but I don't think anybody's a real fan of that as one of the options. But just very early stage learning about what's going on in all of this, and I've been studying kind of what's happening in other countries around the world too, Australia, South Korea. Seems like it's a problem everywhere, you know, that they're all struggling with. So I'm interested just to learn. I'll sit back and be quiet, see what you have to say, but at some point maybe Chief Meyer, I'd love to catch up with you in person and talk to you in more detail about, you know, what your thoughts might be on this and where GE could play a role in helping with California and other parts of the world that are really struggling with some of these issues.
Absolutely.
Dave.
Yeah, Dave Owens here, resident for about 5 years or so. I guess tech attorney by day, community volunteer at night. So I'm a service chair on the Arts Advisory Committee here in San Ramon. I also serve on the board of the Arts Foundation, which Sabina is a member. So yeah, fire safety is certainly an issue I think we all take seriously. We kind of lived in a post-apocalyptic world last September. So, you know, I think it'd be good not to have that would be my hot take. So yeah, I'm interested to hear.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Patrick.
Hi, Chief. My name is Patrick Vanier. I'm a resident. I've been here several decades. I actually grew up in San Ramon, left for a period of time, came back, raised a family. I still have one. My youngest daughter is at Cal High. I have two that are in college right now. My wife's a teacher. I'm a prosecutor. I work down in Santa Clara County as a prosecutor. And Sabina and I have just come to know each other over the years, just traveling in the same circles politically, as well as just through community involvement. My daughter was a Girl Scout. Sabina's been involved with Girl Scouts, and really appreciated her leadership in recognizing Girl Scouts and their various awards. And so that's how Sabina and I have come to know each other. Certainly interested in hearing your perspective on fire safety and climate change, and how that has certainly created a new world for us as adults, and certainly for the next generation just to kind of manage, and just hearing your perspective on how we can certainly do a better job in protecting our community from the dangers of fire and creating a more safe environment. So thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just with that, I would like to ask Chief Meyer to give us a little bit background about yourself. I know you. I've known you over the years, and you know, I think everybody would love to hear your background and what you do and what your role is, and what is San Ramon Valley Fire District, and what does it cover as well.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you guys for having me. I think we've seen in this pandemic, more community involvement is important. People are taking notice of things maybe they hadn't in the past all over the board, and dealing with, you know, all the things that we're seeing throughout the nation. And then obviously for us, we play a big role in a lot of those areas, whether it be fires, medical responses, the pandemic. So thank you for having me here to talk about some of those. And the more information that gets out in these kind of venues, I think it's a good thing for everybody in our community. A little bit about me. I'll start with, I think the most important factor is I do have a 4-year degree from California State University, Chico, which is the Harvard of the West, as we like to say. So that's probably the most important thing you need to know. But I went to Chico State while I was there, business, studying business, and kind of realized that probably wasn't something that I would necessarily enjoy based on sitting behind a desk. And here I am sitting behind a desk eventually. But my passion was really dealing with helping folks out and helping people. And that kind of came through being a state beach lifeguard. So I was on the state beach circuit for a while. And as I got to know who would come to our drownings, we would see, we'd have saves and the fire department would come out, and was able to see, wow, this is a job that, is active, is out in the community, and really encompasses what I want to do with my life. So I started as a volunteer firefighter in the city of Stockton, and then eventually ended up ironically with the city of Sunnyvale as a public safety officer. So that was where, we couldn't figure out our identity. We did both. We were a firefighter and a police officer. So we would, show up in our police cars and run into the fire with the firefighters, put our turn on sign and run into the fire with the firefighters. I only did that for a couple of years. Nothing against being a police officer, just not really necessarily probably my personality type. And eventually got hired in the city of Vallejo, and was there for a lion's share of my career. And eventually, after, as many people probably know, the bankruptcy that occurred, everybody started retiring, and then I was the last guy standing. So they said, okay, you're the most senior guy, you're going to be in charge. So I kind of fell into that, and eventually ended up here in the city, or in the San Ramon Valley, as the fire chief here. So I kind of did that whole moving part. I mean, that was my career trajectory. And ultimately, I think I'm now in my 10th or 11th year as a fire chief, which has been very unique. Usually you last about 3 to 5 years in this job. So it's been really, really fun. It's been, especially in this community, it's been engaging. And in all the communities I serve, but really here over the last really 8 to 9 years, it's been really enjoyable to have a community that you have right here, sitting here, that's really engaged and cares. So that's a little bit about my background. And, I held pretty much every position in the fire service and up until becoming the chief. So with that, I'll also talk, I think you asked about the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District.
Yep.
And so just so everybody knows, and I think you may or may not know this, we cover everywhere from just about the border of Walnut Creek, Alamo, to the border of San Ramon and Dublin. And we even bleed into Dublin a lot because our station on Fircrest and Alcosta puts us into their Alameda County quite a bit. And then we go all the way to the Morgan Territory. So really the backside of Livermore and Brentwood, Oakley area. So East County area. So we're covering about 155 square miles, and all the populations of San Ramon, Danville, Black Hawk, Alamo, Diablo, Morgan Territory, on and on and on. And so it's a district, it's an independent special district. And we have a governing body of 5 elected board members. So they're fire board members that I answer to, but I also have the pleasure of answering to the town of Danville, the city of San Ramon, the County Board of Supervisors, Diane Burgess and Candace Anderson, as well as the MAC and Alamo. So we're very engaged in the community. We serve this community, and it's been really a great partnership with a lot of the folks within our valley, but none more powerful than the city of San Ramon. And I can say that it's nothing against the other areas that we serve. It's just that we happen to have a great partnership. We tend to come together a lot on projects that we'll probably talk about a little bit later. And it's been really enjoyable to have that partnership and be able to do the things we've done so far. So hopefully that encompasses it. The only other thing I'd add, and I'm sure you know this, we're a little unique in that we provide the ambulance protection. So we take our patients from stem to stern, right? So from the time of the call all the way to the time that they hit the emergency room, we take them. And so we are a transport fire department, which is unique and you don't see a lot of, but that's what we do here. So I'll leave it at that and turn it back over to you.
Yeah, and you guys are first responders for us here, right?
Yes.
That's very important to know. When somebody picks up that 911 call, it goes to your communication center and the dispatch center, and we get the dispatch services.
Yeah.
So that's a very important service I think you guys offer. So changing the topic a little bit, you as firefighters have done vaccine clinics as well, right? You really stepped up during COVID and we're vaccinating people. Tell me a little bit about that. We just had a couple last week in San Ramon as well. So how's that going and how did that come about? And so just share that with us if you can.
Yeah. Yes. The thing for us in dealing with COVID, we were, in a weird way, we were on the front lines in the sense that we saw a reduction in call volume, right? We saw that our call volume went down, which is going to happen when everybody's locked down. You don't have as many opportunities for traffic accidents and people around their house. So, fires and different things that we typically see. We saw a reduction of about 10% from a call volume perspective. So being that we're a transport agency, we were very involved in kind of asking and challenging, not in a bad way, but challenging the county health officer to really look at the numbers. People I'm a big data and analytics person, but I'm not a data analytics person that stops at the first layer. There's a lot more. What is the old saying we used to have when I was on the union side of the table, right? Figures lie and liars figure. So you really have to get past those first numbers to understand what's going on. So we really challenged the thought process that this was just a pandemic. This affected our community from a mental health perspective, people losing their livelihoods. We had seen people taking their lives like we hadn't seen in the past. We saw an uptick. I'm not saying it's dramatic, but when you see people responding to those challenges in their life, it definitely gets your attention. And then we were really worried about medical conditions that people had that they weren't getting seen for, because we were talking to our ER doctors who were saying, we're not as busy in the ER, but when they come in, they're in bad shape. So all that kind of conversation and engagement throughout the year really lent itself to us, taking the lead in a lot of areas. And ultimately it culminated with the fact that we had a rollout of vaccine. So we were in these meetings and we knew strategically we were placed as a fire department, whether it's us, Contra Costa County Fire, East County Fire, we had, number one, the people that could get it done. And we also we were in an area that mattered. And in a large part, we're trusted. I mean, I think people trust us to give them their vaccine, and they trust the fire districts and fire departments. So we thought that taking the lead in that, and at least I shouldn't say lead, but offering to take the lead in getting those doses out was important to us. And we knew that if we did that, we could impact these changes in the community, getting enough people vaccinated to see what we're seeing now, right? Which was going from complete shutdown to starting to open up and getting people back to work, whether it's for their mental health, their pocketbook, or otherwise, just being a part of doing that. And I think we knew we were equipped based on our wildland fire responses. Have you ever been to a major wildland fire? We roll in and we're going to make it happen. Like we set it up. We're good at it. We're confident in it. And in defense of the county health, they're not that. They're not out there doing that on the front line. So we just came forward, offered to do it. They didn't. I mean, frankly, they didn't have a lot of confidence in us. But after we and I don't blame them, right? They're nervous. They're handing over the keys to this stuff. Not to put them down at all, but I think over time, what they saw was their clinics doing 300 and our clinics doing upwards of 1,500. They started to go, okay, these guys do know what they're doing, because they're doing 5 times what we're seeing in other places. So all that kind of lent itself, I think, to a good partnership. And really, I hate to be tough on my colleagues in other fire districts and fire departments, but sometimes peer pressure is the best way to get your, and competition breeds folks going, you know what, now we're going to do it. We want to be at the front of that. of that line. So I think that's the other thing we knew would happen is we save people. It's a pandemic. It may not be what we typically do, give injections, but I think everybody else started to kind of jump on board. So that's kind of how we got there. And we were happy to do it because it's a lot of frustration for the community. People want to get back to normal. And I'll just leave you with this. I didn't realize it at the time. I just knew that I wanted us to be a part of making our community and the greater Contra Costa County community safe. But I will tell you, the impact emotionally and from a gratification perspective for our firefighters, when they were giving those first shots to those grandparents and to anybody, that the tears that would come down some of their faces. I had some big tough, and when I say big tough, men and women firefighters that would be going, this is the best clinic. I can't believe I was a part of something so special. So we get a lot out of it too, you know, being able to give back to the community. So it was a great thing. I will say this, the good news, we're out of the business. Friday was our last day. We had 1,500 to 2,000 shots to give. We could barely get 500-600 people to fill the clinics. So that tells us that your Walgreens and your private sector and I feel good that we took it all the way to the bitter end. And now I'm okay stepping back. If they need us, we'll step back in, but I'm okay stepping back now because I think we're where we need to be, at least from our perspective, in getting that vaccine out.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was just looking at the dashboard today, and Contra Costa has a goal of vaccinating 1 million people by May 31st, and we're already at 993,000. So I think this week we should really meet that number a month ahead of, everybody getting that first shot, and then, continuing on to everybody getting the second one. I'm glad I'm fully vaccinated as of last Wednesday. I didn't have any reactions, anything. I know, everybody's body's been different, but I feel just so much more better that I'm vaccinated. I can do more. I can, be around more people. So thank you so much for doing your part there. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sabina.
Hello.
I do have a question. You said a time for Q&A.
Yeah, we'll do that at the end of, we'll do it at the end of
thank you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. So Chief, let's talk about fire safety, and what are you thinking about as the fire season is approaching? What are some of the things people should be aware of? I know there's a community outreach program you also have, and I would love for you to touch on that a little bit. Plus, how is the fire department preparing for fire season and getting ready for it?
Yeah, good question. And it's interesting. I used to say this, and I had to be careful because 10 years ago, you got to, life changes. And I used to joke, and it was tongue in cheek, and it was true. Every fire chief I had ever been around in my career, I've been in this business roughly 30 years, would say, "Oh, it's a dry year. It's going to be one heck of a fire season." And then it'd be a really wet year. "Oh, wow, it's a wet year, a lot of growth. It's going to be a heck of a fire season." It was like the best job in the world, right? You just, no matter what happens. But I think what we've seen, which has changed that conversation, is it's not so much about, although the drought has an impact. There's definitely impacts made by both of the previous mentioned angles. But I think what we've seen is based on climate change, and it's combination thereof. It's not people that want to blame one thing. I always say time out. It's climate change. It's forest management, right? And then it's also, as we've really seen, if you really break down the most devastating, at least in Northern California, fires that we've had, it's maintenance on our utility from a utility company perspective. It's people doing the right things, because we had the lightning complex last year here, which was massive in the East Bay, and it was a lightning strike. That's very rare. But what we've seen over the last 5 years, pretty much every year or every other year, are these massive, life-taking, devastating fires are because of a lack of maintenance on our utility lines, and or a lack of, when I say maintenance, is also keeping trees away from those lines. So it's just a combination thereof. So what we've tried to do here, and we've been fortunate, is number one, we do a very aggressive hazard abatement program. So you will see the signs that are out. I'm sure if you're in a high fire risk area, you should have already gotten a letter telling you, make sure that you do the following things, clearances, different things that you can do in those areas that we require to make sure your home is fire safe. And then we also we're fortunate here. I have a emergency preparedness manager who has a background in fire safety, specifically in wildfire safety. So we offer to HOAs, from an HOA to a community group, to you personally. If you have an issue and you call my office and say, hey, I've got a problem. I'm in a higher fire risk area and I want to talk to somebody about my house. I'm confused. And it's not real confusing, but I'm going to tell you what's kind of confusing. They say, you need to have 100-foot clearance. Well, nobody's going to have 100-foot clearance, right? You can't have these trees up against your house. Well, that's true, but evergreens need to be limbed up 6 feet. So people sometimes will take what's told of them so literally and not really read it beyond that initial point. And I don't want people clear cutting, although I would love for them to clear cut from a fire perspective, right? I'll take the 100-foot clearance, but from a realistic perspective for folks, having, and his name's Ron Marley, having Ron go out and meet with people has been a huge, huge change in how we do business, and really takes the edge off of people because they start to go, okay, this is reasonable. And then for those folks that he goes and looks at their homes and says, hey, you have a shake roof, which means you have an old roof with wood shingles. This is not good. So we're able to be more aggressive that way. So we're preparing through hazard abatement. So we'll have inspectors all over the place. Ron's available, and we'll continue to get the word out. You have, I believe, I have to look till June 1st. So there's still some time, or it might be May 15th. I got to look. But we're out there pushing this agenda right now and these inspections, and we're very forgiving. Understand that if anybody gets a letter, sometimes it has to be a little bit intimidating, but I can tell you, in my time, I've been the chief over 8 years. I'm going on my 9th year here. I have only had to find one person, and when I say find, we had to abate their hazard for them, and that person actually said, yeah, I want you to do that. They weren't fined like against their will. They said, yeah, fine us and take care of it. So we really work with the community. And so that's how we're working with our citizens. From a fire perspective, we're getting, the trainings out and about. We do all of our wildfire training, from how we fight the fire to how we deal with emergency situations. We have the ability to protect ourselves when we might be overrun for fire. So we do all of that training as well, just so our folks are ready. And finally, the exciting thing for us, when I got here as a fire chief, and I know there's going to be debate on this, but there always is, we had type 3 engines. Those type 3 engines, for your knowledge, are these big, almost look like almost a mini, but a mini fire engine. So we've actually taken, because if you drive around here, other than the west side of 680 throughout our district and some of the Diablo area, a lot of our area you'll notice is nice rolling hills. Everybody agree? You see these rolling hills that you don't get a lot of, well, we have them, you don't get a lot of straight up and downs. So we actually brought in a year and a half ago what we call type 5s. And those are almost these big, you'll see them, they almost look like the big truck with a pumper on the back. And I like a more aggressive approach to fires when we get in these areas. So our folks can drive those units on a mobile attack, as opposed to stopping a big engine and having to chase the fire. It's kind of, for me, it's working smarter, not harder, so to speak. So I think that's a big change too for us. So we're excited about that.
Do you have any recommendations on how people should get ready for the fire season at all? Or can you point us to some links on maybe a website where people can be like, okay, this is how we get ready for the fire season?
Yes. There's a couple of things you can do. If you go to firedepartment.org, O-R-G, just remember that. And we're lucky to have it, right? That's I don't ask me, it was before my time, somebody much more talented than I came up with that and had the vision for that. But if you go to firedepartment.org, on the drop-down menu, we have our hazard abatement information. You can go on there and you can literally print out all the things you should be doing. There's check boxes, there's contact data points that you can contact folks and ask questions. And so it's all right there on the website. The other thing we have is Ron Marley's information as well. So you can get on there and contact him. The other thing that we have, and I believe we have 3 escape route maps for San Ramon specifically that deal with when you have a fire, and here's your community, here's your escape routes that we're going to want you to use. So you can print those things out too, put them on your refrigerator. So if and again, if you're in a high fire risk area, it's really important to have that out so you can look and say, okay, if you ever had an evacuation, you can go and have that printed out and say, okay, this is where I should go. So we have all those on that website, and I think a lot of them are very helpful. But again, for the community, don't hesitate to reach out. We will respond either with Ron or with a fire engine, because that's our job to make sure that you guys are prepared for the worst. So those are a few things that I would say from a fire perspective.
And the last question that I will ask, and I would love for you to share, is about the EOC and the partnership that we're moving forward with in the training center that's coming to San Ramon.
Yes,
Which is just, we are very fortunate, very, very fortunate to have that partnership and that new EOC that we're looking forward to. So
no, we are very, very excited. From our perspective, we had capacity. We are currently in a location, not only from a dispatch perspective, our dispatch center, which Sabina, you had mentioned was is a primary PSAP now. So everybody in the city of San Ramon, when you call 911, you come to us and we're able to get that information out. So that kind of morphed itself into trying to look at other partnerships, because that communication center is I'm so proud of them, and they're the best in the business. But right now they're in the back of a fire station. And that's not necessarily always the safest thing for your communications nerve center, to be in the back of a fire station. So we're fortunate. We worked with the council and Joe Gordon and Craig Stevens to come up with a plan for us to not only move into 2401 Bollinger Canyon Road right across the street from me, to be able to move our boardroom and our offices and have a partnership with the police department there. We also were able to come up with a way to construct 8,000 square foot state-of-the-art emergency operations center, that's what you would activate in the case of a wildland fire, an earthquake, or otherwise. And then also in that building, a state-of-the-art communication center. So your communication center is going to be in a building that not only has all of the technology upgraded as necessary, it's also what we call an essential services building, which is supposed to withstand major earthquakes. And so for us, that needs to stand in the face of these terrible emergencies. So that partnership has been great. The city was kind enough to partner with us in ownership in that and all those, and we're paying for the construction of everything and sharing in the ownership. And so we're excited for that, not only just from a perspective of having capacity and having something that's going to last a generation or more, but also the safety aspect of getting all that in one building that's secure, safe, and able to withstand the worst of an earthquake. So that's the big thing happening. It is, the groundbreaking is June 3rd, and we have our contractor on board. I love to throw this out because you don't hear it. And I was talking to Councilmember Zafar a little earlier that we came in $5 million under budget. So you love hearing that on the front end of a project, because you typically don't see it. Now, we were optimistic, but I think it shows that we have hungry contractors out there. that are, that we're taking advantage of a moment where I think a lot of other cities had stopped their projects, and rightfully so. It's tough sledding for all public agencies. We're lucky to be able to take advantage of that. So we're excited.
Thank you for sharing. And I think now I'll open it up to folks. I know Marcia had a question.
Yes, hi everybody. I have a practical question about vaccination. So some of us have already completed, some of us not. It seems that in the community nowadays, people will be asking, are you vaccinated, are you not? And it seems like if you are not, then might be you are not. Some friends told me, oh, you're not invited, so I know. So now we are getting more and more kind of wanting to see each other in person. So how safe is it if we actually not, or if we have vaccinated? And that's what the first question. I have a second question on the fire, but I listen to you first.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a great question. The difficult thing, and we follow this very closely, we have a very strong emergency medical division, and I'm always telling them, challenge the information. I keep asking yourself, is this making sense? And I think we have some really bright folks in that division, a lot smarter than I am. And we all come back to the frustration that I think everybody feels, is that depending on who you talk to, you get a different answer. And I think from a liability standpoint, what we hear a lot from our county officials and our elected officials, and rightfully so, they don't want to say it's okay to go out and interact and necessarily and give you a distinct answer. So I'm going to be a politician today, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not comfortable answering that question because I'm not sure that I have gotten enough information that I'm comfortable with to give you it as the fire chief. I will tell you as Paige Meyer. I'm going to take the badge off for a second, okay? If you're vaccinated, all indications are that you're in a very good position to be able to interact with little to no concern, right? That being said, distancing and respect for other people who may not have the same feelings. I think the problem that we have is more of a norm, a social norm issue, right? Because you don't want to offend folks. So I think that if you're vaccinated, I think you're in good shape to live your life and be respectful of other people's of their area, and especially outside. I think outside has definitely been proven to be safe as far as not wearing a mask. But that's me as Paige Meyer. As the chief, I'm still going to put that back on and say, I'm going to defer to my county partners, and you and I can talk over a glass of wine or something. I can tell you other things, I think. I'm joking.
Yeah, let's get together.
And Marcia, I would just add to it, just follow CDC's guidelines. I think that's right now where, we've got to have a single authority that we're kind of following, and, recommendations coming down. They've always been at the forefront of a lot of these things, which initially people didn't believe and thought, they were overreacting and things like that. But I would say we follow CDC. The unfortunate thing is, I was just talking to the chief the other day, telling him about, how the pandemic has really, in places like India and Pakistan, it's taken a head of its own. They're having the worst cases ever since the pandemic started. And I had a lot of friends that were planning to visit their family as soon as they got the vaccine. Because they're like, oh, I can safely visit my family. And now you're seeing these countries shutting down again because the pandemic is fully alive and, if you will, just, very rampant there and spreading very quickly. And, the same thing, that they're shutting down their borders and things like that. So it is an, international pandemic. It is a pandemic. And, And we just, I think, one, common sense, and two, follow CDC's guidelines on, what they're saying. These are the guidelines we should follow. This is what we should do. So I would say refer your friends to, and they come up with a lot of quick social media posts as well, which is kind of a little card that if you want to print out or reshare with your friend, it kind of tells you, here's what you should and can do when you're fully vaccinated.
Yeah, sure. We'll follow that. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Sabina.
Absolutely. And I agree, real quick, I agree with everything Sabina said. But I also understand the frustration, because I think that there's so much misinformation out there. And then unfortunately, and this is one of the things I always say, and I'm going to and it's going to sound like I'm attacking county health and these health officers, but they really haven't, they haven't dealt with something like this. So that's why I think you see this frustration that we all have, is because they always don't want to move too quickly. And I'll give you one recently. We're not going outside for 4th of July parades and for different things. And I've gotten a lot of calls, because obviously we like to be the first in that parade, as you all know. We like to be right in the front, but we get a lot of calls of why are we not doing it? And it is frustrating. So just hang in there. But I think, to Sabina's point, I think we're going to see some good news and opening up hopefully sooner, so those questions kind of go away naturally.
That's great. Thank you. And my second question is about fire prevention. So I agree with you that some of the major climate change in California in general is, is whether it's drought or whether it's flood. We always have to watch out for the fire. So as individual homeowners, we are careful with that. But I want to raise a question about if there are, in quotation, some bad guys intentionally set things on fire. How do we watch out for that or prevent that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's tough. I mean, we are very, very aggressive on juvenile. We have a juvenile fire setter program, in the sense that we intercept these parents sometimes. I mean, 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100, a juvenile fire setter is just a kid that's, experimenting, right? But you still have a percentage thereof that it becomes an issue. So we have a great partnership with the city of San Ramon's police department again, and we have a great fire prevention division that will sit down and meet with those kids and make sure we try to get ahead of them. But the other thing it does is it also gives us an idea when we work with them, if this is going to be an ongoing problem. And we work with the parents closely, get mental health advocates involved. So we're always doing things to try to prevent it. As we say, what an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But as far as when it comes to the fires that you see being set by somebody that is really looking to do harm to folks, there's not a lot that you can look for, because people that when they do that quietly, and we have to be fortunate to be able to see somebody that may have been leaving the area with the evidence that they may have said it. And we had a fire just right behind me. I'm at the corner of Bollinger and Crow Canyon a few years ago. And we had a fire there, and it was intentionally set. And the only reason that we found out is, as we were responding, somebody came out with a can of gasoline, right? So we were able to see, there was no ands, ifs, or buts. So it's not a lot you can do as a citizen, other than if a fire happens, just be aware of what was happening. Be a good witness if we come in, because we will come in after the fact and investigate it. And anybody that has anything, whether it's a license plate or otherwise, that we can follow up on, it always helps us be more be able to close the door on things like that, and hopefully find the folks that do it. So that always keeps me up at night, because that's the one area that we can't really truly prevent, and if done at the wrong time, we can see the devastation and the loss of life that can happen. So being a good witness is really the most you can do.
Yeah, good, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question? I think, Chief, you shared all the information that we were looking for. So.
Yeah, I think I don't know if Russ is still there. I just add this, a couple things. We are always looking for technology and ways to work together with, even though we may not have the best relationship with PG&E from a operational standpoint, and maybe even ideological or philosophical standpoint in a lot of ways. We do still try to work with them. They have a great public safety specialist that works closely with the fire district and all the fire departments to try to get us the information that we need to know how they're dealing with their challenges. But from GE's perspective, for you, Russ, I'd love to meet with you if there's some ideas you have. We're always looking for ways to not only be able to identify ways to be more effective, but technology is huge. I mean, I know we've got some different folks working on ways to have, there's a new technology coming out of Berkeley, and my colleague at Maraga-Orinda Fire District's been working on whether it's rods in the ground that can detect changes in temperature at a rapid pace, which before we even have to get a phone call, because by the time someone calls and they see the flames, we're already behind the 8 ball, as you could imagine. So everything from that to, we were fortunate to have cameras put throughout our district that also have heat technology that can, let our dispatch center know, hey, there's something going on here. So we can go respond prior to getting a phone call. Really, that's the key. The earlier we find out before it gets going upslope or downwind or otherwise, the more effective we are in heading it off at the pass. So we're always looking at that. So we are active in it, but Russ, if you have any, you want to come and meet with my staff and talk about GE, we always welcome that.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm curious, what's the current state of use of drone technology? When there is something, I mean, the thought that in a few minutes this thing can fly in and, if it gets caught up in a thing and crashes, who cares? It's not a human being that lost its life. And, sometimes now these are $1,000 device, right? But what's the current use of drone technology and, seeing what's going on with the fire? Or I know GE is supposedly helping PG&E, buzz these things down the power lines and look for trees that are problematic and lines that are deployed. Just where we stand on that, but we're doing things like that, which theoretically, the speed that those things can analyze power lines is like 10,000 times faster than crews could do, right? Because they're not limited by the mountains and everything else, right? It's very efficient, but I'm just curious how that's playing a role in your world from where you see it right now.
Yeah, right now we've used drone technology a lot of times after the fire to get the scope and how the fire moved. Not so much during the fire, only because typically it's tough to do based on the fact that how low they fly and how much smoke's in the air. So that becomes difficult. I know some fire departments are trying to use it aggressively. We've been kind of using it post-fire is the most we've used it. And the other thing, keep in mind, when we get these fires going at a pretty rapid clip, what happens is we call in Cal Fire and they bring in their TAC units. So we end up having, eyes from the sky, so to speak, directing the tankers on their drops. Yeah. So we are involved in that. But from a drone perspective, we haven't done it so much, like I said, on the initial phases. We've been relying on kind of our cameras that were put in, and that tends to be what we use right now. That being said, that's another area where when we get the right drone that can withstand certain types of heat and maybe fly a little higher, stuff that we would look at.
Good. Yeah, well, can't wait to meet with you and talk in more detail. I'll be honest, I'm pretty much a novice at this. This is one of those where GE came up with something a few months ago, like, what are ideas we can do that could transform things? And this one kind of like, hey, this is just a huge problem and we're not talking much about it. What can GE do? We're one of the largest companies in the world. We have presence in almost every country in the world. And, we're already somewhat involved. I think, Sabina, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're the largest producer to wind technology. We manage over a third of the world's electric grid. We make like 80% of the world's jet engines. So the potential for us to help create more helicopters, things like that, that could also be in the response. There's a lot of potential, but when I studied this, and I've probably watched 150 YouTube videos in the last 6 weeks from things of what's going on in Australia, what's going on here, why people think there's a problem, looking at the fire that happened up in Paradise. I think PBS did a really good documentary on that and stuff, really. And that, what happened, like 2 hours or something from the start till the town was gone, right? It was one of those just unbelievable, the winds were so aggressive that it was, in about 3 hours, it seems like it was from a tiny fire to the town's gone, right? So these things are not easy problems to solve.
Right. Yeah, but GE does do a lot of great work. I know that they've, a lot of the technology GE utilizes, we utilize too. So it would be a good partnership, and it is nice to hear that a company that size would be interested in helping, and we'll take advantage of that if we can.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. We want to make a difference, and helping the world, because everybody's being affected by this. I mean, last year, I remember them saying that even New York City was having major air quality problems due to the fires on the West Coast, right? So it's not an isolated thing that, that's just a 10-mile thing, but thousands of miles away. And some people even believe this may be one of the biggest contributors to global warming than all the other things we're dealing with. So a lot of interesting things, but there's also, like you said, it's almost like this virus. There's a lot we don't know for sure. It's speculative, and you get different opinions from different people. But the reality is, it just seems it is worse than it used to be. I've been here 20 years, and I just don't remember the first 10 years living in the Bay Area, other than occasionally, there's some smoke, from a fire somewhere. And now it's really affecting our quality of life and keeping us on pins and needles. That, we're ready to evacuate on a moment's notice now, because you just don't know, so
Yep.
very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, Chief, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure hosting you and really learning so much more and bringing some of it out, which we've had those discussions to the residents of San Ramon, and, and you're always very approachable, always very reachable. So I really always appreciate that. Thank you so much for your partnership. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Mike, Russ, Marcia, I know Patrick and Dave had to drop off, and everybody watching us live on Facebook as well.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you
Enjoy
for
your
having
time.
me.
Y'all make this a great
Appreciate it.
community. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Until next time.
Thanks.